Thanks for joining Grace in the Grind, where we're here for the Christians in business to equip, to empower, and to encourage them to do all that God has for them in their lives. And today I have a new friend, Fredrick Douglass Bussey, right? Is that how you say your last name? I just want to make sure I don't butcher
Bussey,
that.
Bussey,
Bussey.
yes, you got it.
And he's going to sit here today. We're going to unpack some really powerful stuff. And I just want to thank Fredrick for being on the show. And I'm going to say, hey, man, introduce yourself to the audience.
First of all, I want to thank you, Jim, for having me as a guest for this conversation. When I introduce myself to people and tell them I run a business advisory firm, they oftentimes will say, "Oh, so you're like a life coach or a business coach?" And I will say to them that is a Bugatti a car, right? And so it's a different category. And what we do is not exactly coaching. It's far beyond that. It's deeper. And so rather than trying to explain it to people, I say, yeah, is a Bugatti a car? If that's the case, then yeah, then I'm like a business coach. We run a business advisory firm that works with businesses that typically have between 5 to 50 employees. Families are number one priority. They want to be able to multiply their net worth and the profits in their business, using their business as a vehicle to build that legacy of generational wealth, while at the same time shrinking the time that they're obligated to work every week. It means you can work as much as you want to, but you don't have to work longer than you want to. And that's how we help people. And that's what I do.
Sweet. And thank you for being here again with us. And so I want to jump into this with the first question, because I think that's something that's on a lot of people's mind: building generational wealth and
Mhm,
minus obligation. So what does that
mhm.
generally look like for people? And even what are some of the hangups that cause people not to achieve that?
So first of all, generational wealth, first of all, is a category that has to be defined, right? When people say they want to build wealth, what does that really mean? Do you want to have a lot of money? Do you want to be able to have a yacht, mansions, luxury cars, etc.? You have to be able to define what wealth means to you. Do you want to be healthy for as long as you possibly can be so you can enjoy life with your family as long as you possibly can be? What does that look like? Does it entail all of those things? If so, then yes, we can help you to build that through business as a vehicle. But for many people, because that's a two-part question, what it looks like can depend, right? It's really up to you. But what I would say is, excuse me, what I would say is that if the thing that holds most people back is not being clear on what that definition is and not really understanding their own relationship with money. Money is a thing that affects everyone. We all have our own relationship with it, and our capacity to be able to expand that relationship, to really understand it and to strengthen it in a way that allows us to remove any barriers or any hurdles to where we want to go is super important. One of the things that I think holds people back most is just not understanding their relationship with money. It's actually, it forms a lot of beliefs that are invisible to us because beliefs are invisible. And so we see the world through this prism. And so we often have these beliefs because we've been taught things like money doesn't grow on trees and money is scarce and money is hard and things are hard right now. And so these kind of continually perpetuating beliefs are programmed deep inside of us. And so they can often restrict us from being able to make the wealth and generate the wealth that we truly desire to make.
So then, so the my question then becomes, of all the people you've coached, right? And with that, what has been the top maybe one or two things you've seen that are these limiting beliefs?
Well, it come in different forms, but I think one of the ones that most prevalent is that things have to be hard,
Mm,
right? Making money is hard. And it's often because we're looking at things through the wrong prism. One of the things that we teach our clients is to always be in profit mode. And so there's this belief that by most business owners that revenue equals profit. We know this when we break down the numbers, but we still are obsessed with making more top line and not bringing home more every single day. And the fact of the matter is, when you want to build generational wealth, the profit is the thing that actually generates the value of the company, not the revenue. So I think we just saw in the news ChatGPT, OpenAI, the company that created ChatGPT. They recently raised $6.6 billion, but their valuation of the company is at $157 million because that's the value that it was valued at when they raised the money. So what that means is that they are now raising money and is being valued at the company is being valued at 22, about 24 times the money that they raised. So $157 million is what it's valued at. What that means is that people who are investing in that company are seeing their capacity of that business to be able to generate 22 times the value of what they're willing to put in. And we see this with all the top companies that they are all generating in excess of what some multiple of whatever there is that they're doing. So when you start to see money in that way, you start to understand that value is not about what I bring in, it's about what I'm able to spin off. Right? What am I able to create for those who are key stakeholders in my business? And for yourself, you got to be clear on what that stakeholder, who those stakeholders are, especially when it relates to what you are building this for. If you're building it to leave a generational wealth to your family, what does that look like? What does that entail? And I think it helps to clarify a lot for people they're really building and why they're doing what they're doing. Because there are a lot of bad habits that we get into when we start our businesses. And typically, the point which we join companies, they've been in business for several years. Because of that, they have built a business on the foundation of poor money relationship beliefs. And so what we get to do is go in and help them to understand there is a way that you're thinking about money. We get to read that and see it through a more powerful framework that allows you to be able to create multiples of the profit that you're currently seeing in your business.
Man, that's good. So then the next question following up, and I want to dig into your story a little bit, is what were some of the money beliefs that you held that you had to overcome to be able to do what you do now?
Oh man, I'll give you a couple of stories that kind of reflect that. I remember I started my first business when I was 12 years old. And I call it a business loosely because it was basically me and my younger brother taking my dad's lawnmower and going around the neighborhood asking neighbors to cut their lawns. And so we got a couple of yards and we were able to do that and generate the money. But one of the things that I remember thinking was that being a businessman was somebody who walked around with a suit and a business and a briefcase. And I didn't know what that meant. So having a lack of understanding, I didn't know what it really meant to start a business until I actually bought my first one when I was 26 years old. So from that aspect of it, one of the things that what limited me was just my lack of understanding about money. The things I mentioned, money doesn't grow on trees. These are things I heard my parents say all the time. I
Right.
would see them have disagreements or be frustrated about money. And so I came to believe that money was a scarcity. It was hard to attain. It was easy to lose, and that being rich or being wealthy was magic because I didn't understand how I didn't know anybody that was wealthy. We knew people that might maybe had a nice house or multiple cars, but it wasn't growing up in small town Mississippi. There weren't a lot of quote unquote wealthy people. So within access to a young man. So I didn't really understand what that really meant and what that looked like. And then I remember when I was 16 years old, I decided I want to buy a car. I just want to be able to have money as I'm getting ready to go to school in about a year and a half. And I asked my dad, let me go over to Arby's and apply for a job because it was right up the street from our house. I figured I could walk to work and do that sort of a thing. My dad said, no, you can't get a job. Kids don't need money. Kids need parents with money. And I started scratching my head because I said, I don't really know. My parents don't really have money, so am I going to ever have any money? There are a lot of limiting thoughts when it came to that sort of a thing. And then over time, as I got older, I started to realize there were a lot more of these limiting beliefs that really were infecting my capacity to be able to grow and build a business, to be able to build wealth for myself and my family, and just to be able to move forward and progress in life.
How did you struggle through some of that? Because that's a tough statement. Kids don't need money like they need parents with money. That's a tough statement to really grow up to. So what was the process that really helped you to overcome that?
It's a continual process. One of the things that I did was I remember I watched this workshop on wealth building and money relationships. It's about a 6 hour workshop that I found on YouTube. So it came in 6 parts. And so there were several things that I did to be able to start unpacking that, understanding what my beliefs are or were around money. One of the things is that you have to become comfortable with it. You have to become more engaging with it. My business advisor always talks about being more engaging with money, which means that you should wake up every morning and check your bank account. You should learn to carry money around with you. You have to be aware of where you may be slowing down or pumping the brakes when it could be talking about money. So if you're not engaging in sales, you're not doing things in marketing, if you're being hesitant to spend money in your business or to make an investment in a certain area because you want to hold on to it, being aware of those things and engaging in those difficult conversations. I like to say that everything you want is on the other side of a difficult conversation, even if it's with yourself. And so I had to learn to be able to have those conversations with myself so that I could investigate where I was falling short, where I was limiting myself, where I was thinking in scarcity, not in abundance. I will I tell people a lot of times, no one's ever walked into a room and looked around and said, man, I hope there's enough oxygen in here for me to be able to survive the next 30 minutes. Everything that we need in life actually exists in abundance. We have all the oxygen we need. We have all the sunlight we could ever need. There's all the food that we could ever need. Our planet and our universe exists and was created and designed to help us to survive. God designed the universe to be able to perpetuate life. But what we do is when we live in scarcity, we're living in fear and death, and we're under the impression or always constantly allowing our mind to program itself to think that we're in lack of something, that we're in need of something. And so being able to recognize that within me is the capacity to be able to create all the wealth that I could ever need. It's a God given, God designed ability and capacity that I have, that we all have. And the key is to learn to tap into it, to unlock it, so that you can recognize and be able to experience life in the way that you were truly designed and meant to be able to do. And for most of us, what we end up doing is we're existing, we're not truly living. And that has a lot to do with what's really going on inside of our lives and why we don't, in our relationship with money, find the capacity to be able to build that wealth. It's there for all of us, but for most of us, we struggle with that because it's really based in scarcity.
That was a powerful statement. We're just existing, not living, man. I hope the listener at home, I hope that you just caught that. Some things are taught and some things are caught. And to you guys that are listening right now, I hope you caught that. And this is maybe your call out to say, hey, it's time to stop existing and start living in every place that God has called you to. Let's move into this real cool thing that I'm just thinking about this because nothing happens in a vacuum. And so
Right.
with a lot of your breakthroughs and a lot of moving from scarcity to abundance and all that stuff, you mentioned God. So here's what it is. Was your breakthroughs, was this something that just happened within yourself? Was it prayer? Was it mentors? Was it pastors? Was it who was involved in creating and crafting who you are currently?
I never think it's any one person. I always do believe that God is always trying to lead us and to call us into the greatest version of ourselves. And for me, that actually rooted back in a rock bottom moment for me. Years ago, my wife she had started a business. She had left the business because of some disputes with the business partners. I had a struggling business at the time. Things were not going, and we were being evicted from a home. And so I had an eviction notice that was sitting on the kitchen table. And at the time, there was a sales coach who was reaching out to me and making an offer and telling me, you need to join this program. And I was hesitant, but I also was at this point where I realized that I was at the point of no return. The rent was going to come around again the next month. And I needed to have a next level skill set. I didn't know what that was going to entail, what that meant or anything, but I knew I had to change. And so what I did was I borrowed $500 from my dad, made the down payment, the deposit in the program, got into the program. And through that, interestingly, I learned a lot about sales indeed. But what happened was he asked me to do an exercise where I was supposed to figure out what my special value was for my clients. What's the thing I could offer them? And for some reason, I was banging around on the thing for a week. I just could not come up with an answer. And so I said, and I sent him a message and I said, you know what, man, I don't have anything. And he sent me back a message that changed the trajectory of my life. He said, God doesn't make people without purpose. And we used to talk in the program all the time about having a gift and things like that. And for the first time, it was like a bomb went off in my head. And I started asking myself the question. I said, what does it mean to have a gift? What does that really mean? And so I started going down this rabbit hole of discovery and things that led me to writing my first book called Breaking Orbit. You can see it in the blur behind me over my shoulder. It's called Breaking Orbit, Rip Out of the Regular by Unearthing the Power Within. And in that book, I talk about what it means to have a gift. Our gift is our unique capacity to create a special and unique impact in the world, right? A unique and singular outcome that only we can do in the way that only we can do it. And I hear a lot of people talking about gifts and talents and things of that nature. And what I realized is that we conflate all of these different words and we put them all into this one basket when they're all different things. And distinctions make the difference in our life. When we start to understand the distinction, right? So you can look a cat and a lion are not the same thing, right? A lion technically is a cat, but you cannot treat a lion like you treat a cat. There's a distinction that's there. And most of us exist in this blur, not understanding the distinctions of the things that separate us, that elevate us in our lives, because we're able to dive in deeper. And so when I went in, that was the thing that allowed me to be able to unpack more about my identity, to release a lot of the negative thought patterns that I had about myself, about the worthlessness and insecurity that I had. And it was a journey. But once I started realizing that we are all designed with a gift in mind, and that we don't have to go chasing a purpose because our purpose is innate. When we understand that, then that unlocks our capacity to be able to start creating the wealth, to create the outsized outcomes that we want to have for ourselves and for those around us. I want to be sure I answer your question.
You did. No, you're getting there. And but the challenge here is you're answering the question and unpacking 500 more questions that I have because this is really good stuff. And I seriously appreciate it because this brings up like so many lines of thought. Like our
Mhm.
listeners may struggle with identity. Like I know in the body of Christ, identity is primary, but most people struggle with that.
Mhm.
And when you're talking about it, hey, I release this, accepted my identity, and everything changed. And that's like powerful. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, that is amazing. So then it comes here. So you're getting identity, you've overcome this, you've overcome that, you're no longer in scarcity, you're in abundance. How do you maintain that?
That's a great question. So I have a framework that I developed out of this giftedness concept. And that concept is dominance, but it takes the first three letters, DOM. It's discovery, ownership, and mastery. So the process of giftedness and unpacking and unlocking your true identity and the power that lies within you really comes through when you understand that this is a process, it's a journey, but there is no cap on it. One of the more damaging things that we come to believe is that there isn't there, that we get to arrive at this point when everything is finished, that we have a max capacity. So we're maxing out on our life. In reality, as human beings, we are uniquely designed to be able to continuously, exponentially expand our capacity as human beings, right? So we see this with technology all the time. We just don't understand it. It's also part of our own mental makeup, right? So if you look at where we were 125 years ago, fastest way to communicate with someone was to put a envelope in a letter in an envelope, give it to a guy with a sack, and let him race across the country on a horseback. And then we had trains, and then we had cars, and then we invented planes, and then we invented the telephone, and then we invented the internet, and now invented AI. And so we have all these different things that allow us to be able to communicate faster and faster, and yet and still the fastest way of communication is thought. And so our capacity to be able to expand on that. Now, if I can unleash or unhinge my thinking from all the things that are keeping it small, all the things that are keeping it on horseback versus allowing it to be an AI, what I call the real AI, which is authentic intelligence, then what we can do what we can do now is that we can continually exponentially be able to expand our mind, our thinking, and what's possible for us and for generations. We see that with even wealth. We have companies now that are valued at trillions of dollars, $2 trillion, I think Microsoft or was it Amazon? was the first company to be able to break through and reach that level. And so now, every time we as human beings see another level unlocked, it unlocks other levels for us. So soon we will see a multi-trillion-dollar company in terms of valuation. And I'm going back to what we talked about valuation, that is the value that is created through the business, not just the revenue that comes to it, right? So is about that. And so dominance, ownership, and mastery is about understanding how to take that capacity and be able to internalize it instead of it just being an external framework, realizing, no, this is not something that you're just learning. It's learning who this is who you really are. It's not
Right.
something that's just right, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm an active listener. So I'm like, I'm agreeing with you. So continue.
Yeah, so it's not just something that we're taking as a backpack that you put on. It's literally, it's more than even the skin that you wear. It is your heartbeat. It is the brain waves that you generate. It is everything about who you actually are. It is your DNA. And so what we've been doing for centuries, really since Adam and Eve, is that we have been deceived about who we really are and living according to that false version of ourselves. We've been deceived about who God is because, as a reflection of Him, as a creation, a recreation of God, our misunderstanding of who God is made us to make God in our image instead of seeing ourselves in His.
Mm. You sure you haven't preached anywhere? Because man, I'm telling you what, that's good. That's really good, man. So then that comes down to, I think, as our time starts to roll down, I think I have two last questions for you. Status, things like that. How do you, as a person, work on personal development so that you
Mhm.
can be the model of what you're trying to help other people be?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think one of the things that I try to do, we're all on social media. Most people are now. And there's a thing called the algorithm that kind of controls what I talk a lot about flipping your own algorithm. So if you're seeing certain things, for instance, all apps like Facebook or YouTube are designed to keep you on that app by showing you more of the things that you're already interested in. And so when you watch that, it's going to keep feeding you more of the same thing. So if you want to change your algorithm, you have to change the things that you're consuming. You have to be conscious about, let me search for this. So if you want to grow in business, you'll search for business things. If you want to grow in spirituality and in knowledge of God, of the Bible, or whatever it is, or relationships, marriage, whatever the case may be, you want to search for those things and bring those things forward. So you summon them to you, so to speak, right? Life is very much the same thing. We have the capacity to be able to focus on anything and to call into our awareness this existence. And so if there's a place that you want to go in your life, there's really a question that you are asking yourself, like, how do I get there? And so there's someone, there's something, there's a book, there's a resource, there's the answer. And of course, God is the source of all answers. And so he unlocks those things for you. What one of the things that I have learned to do is to recreate my algorithm. So the things that I read, of course, Bible study, of course, prayer, but also the people that are in my world and in my life, right? And so what happens is you will be on this journey where you will consistently be introduced to new concepts and new things that allow you to be able to expand your life. And if you're always in that journey and you're continuously present to God speaking to you in the smallest of ways, and you'll find that even the smallest thing, the smallest interaction can be the most powerful thing to launch you into a new direction, to be able to expand your mind, to be able to unlock new levels of growth, acceleration, be it in your business, in your relationships, more intimacy, deeper communication, and just really embracing the fact that life can be immensely better than it was yesterday. It can be even better tomorrow if we allow it to be, because that's what God wants for us. I always say, God, you can never dream a dream bigger than the dream God dreams for you. So why not live in that dream and allow yourself to be immersed in it so you can continue to grow and achieve? Growth is not a thing that you do, growth is a byproduct of living life. From the moment that we are conceived, all we ever do is grow. And so physically, we may reach a capacity, it may reach a limit, but mentally, we never have to. Spiritually, we never have to. So that's the the framework I see things through.
That's great. That's amazing. So then if people want to connect with you, how do they do?
Man, I'm everywhere on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook. One of the best ways to reach me is Facebook. If you want to send me a message there directly, feel free to do so. On Instagram, Fredrick Bussey, Twitter, Fredrick Bussey. On Facebook is Fredrick Douglass Bussey. I also have a Facebook group, which is the Seven Figure Circle, $1 Million Masterminds for entrepreneurs. We have a ton of free classes, courses, master classes that we do frequently with different experts that we'll bring in to talk about everything from finances to business, personal development, time management, things of that nature, productivity. So we're always looking to expand what's possible for our members there. So feel free to reach out and connect me. Let me know if you heard this podcast, what you heard, what resonated with you. I'd love to hear feedback from people all the time. It lets me know what value I'm able to add. And if you have a question, feel free to drop that as well.
And for the listener, we will put those all in the show notes so that will make it very easy and accessible with all the links, all the things. So make sure you grab the show notes as well. And as we close down, first and foremost, thank you for being here and for an amazing conversation and with so much value that I know I got a lot out of it. I know the listeners are going to get a lot out of it too. So with that being said, leave us, because I do this segment of the show where it says hashtag wisdom bomb. And for you listeners, if you go to my Facebook, Lead with Jim, hashtag wisdom bomb and hashtag wisdom of the day, you'll find 2.5, 3 years. I've been doing it almost every day exclusively for 3 years. So what is a wisdom bomb that you would drop for the audience that they can take away with?
One of my favorite things from the book is talking about the 3 laws of giftedness. The first law says that every person has a unique and powerful gift. But one of the first keys of discovering your gift is accepting that you have one. But every person is created with a unique and powerful gift. The second law of giftedness says that every gift has a purpose. One of the most unfortunate things that we tend to do is that we are taught that we have no purpose. And so we go outside of ourselves looking for it. We search for it. We try to create it. But if you look around the room, everything that is in our physical space was created by someone for a purpose. The plant holder, the shelves on the wall, the microphone, headphones, everybody created with a very specific purpose in mind. And yet we as human beings believe that we were created with no purpose. And so we just have to walk around figuring it out on our own. And that's one of the more damaging things that we have. So the second law of giftedness is that every gift has a special, unique, and powerful purpose. And the last law, number 3, is my favorite because it says that no gift can fail at the purpose for which it was created. Again, looking around our universe, looking around the natural world and the natural order of things, the sun always shines, birds always fly, grass always grows, the wind always blows, water always flows. Nothing that was created in the universe fails at the purpose for which it was created, and neither will you. So those 3 laws of giftedness are things that I go back to as a grounding for myself when I feel like I'm insecure, I'm maybe failing, whatever. If I'm walking in my gift, I'm not going to fail in my purpose because my purpose is within me, and my purpose is with my gift. And my gift is never going to fail.
Thank you for dropping that wisdom. And to you, the listener, thank you for making it this far in the show. Grateful for you. Again, grab the notes. Everything's going to be linked down there. Grab the transcript. You'll have everything that was said in today's conversation. And I just want to thank you, listener, for being just a part of this journey, part of the conversation. And Fredrick, thank you as well for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and have this conversation. I much appreciate you for that. And I know the audience will as well.
Absolutely.
And
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely, man. And so for the listener, you have been listening to Grace in the Grind, where we're here for the Christian in business to equip, empower, and to encourage you to do all that God's called you to. I'm just grateful that you're here, and head on to the next episode.
This has been Grace in the Grind. Whether you're a Christian leader looking for guidance or an entrepreneur seeking inspiration, it's Jim's passion to equip and encourage you. Make sure to check out Jim's solo episodes, where he shares practical leadership insights grounded in a biblical perspective. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on social media at Lead with Jim. And you can also hit the website at www.leadwithjim.com. Take care of yourself And we'll see you next time on Grace in the Grind.